If I had a nickel for every time I've seen a YouTuber who put out a video asked about beastars, only to come out as a gay furry later in that same video, I'd have 2 nickels.
Which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice.
You guys know what beastars is, right? The hit manga series by Paru covers the story of a young grey wolf trying to sort out his complicated feelings around how he could live and operate a society that eats itself alive. No, literally, they eat each other. Beastars is about a lot of things, and I think one of the best ways to describe it is Itagaki's own words.
This is an animal manga about a human drama. What happens when you take a group of animals and tell them to live in a human society? What happens when you take a wolf and tell them you don't get to be a wolf? Your nature, your instincts are wrong, are harmful, are dangerous to yourself and others. What do you say to a wolf who loves other animals? What can a wolf do when you tell them their feelings are wrong? What can they do except die, devour? How can an animal live in a human society? And how can we blame them when they can't?
This is Juno. She's a 16-year-old grey wolf. She's an Aquarius, because we are compatible. She is 5'7", 112 pounds, and her blood type is AB. Her birthday is on February 12th. She wants to be the next beastar, and she will give up on her dream. Juno is the latest member of Cherryton's drama club. But not because she applied to it, because she was scouted. In fact, everyone in the drama club is there because they were scouted. Those who are normal cannot be a part of the ecosystem.
Every member of the drama club has serious issues. Only beasts who've been deeply traumatized are invited to join the drama club. The underlying purpose of our club is to channel our life experience into our work. The drama club is always in the public eye, but it's full of dark secrets.
This is what Kai, a recently demoted actor, tells Legosi about the club he's in.
He himself is an orphan, raised by a family of hyenas, even though he's a mongoose. Sheila the cheetah was a destitute 14-year-old girl working at a dominatrix carnivore club to make ends meet. Mina the giraffe, ironically, has trypophobia. She can't bear to look at herself. Marzo the rhinoceros is delusional and thinks his horn is his guardian angel. As the story goes on, we learn that Louis was being sold as live meat on the black market before he was adopted by his father, the leader of the horn conglomerate. Legosi, appearing at first to be an ordinary, albeit a large grey wolf, is actually 1/4 Komodo dragon on his mother's side.
Everyone in the club has a dark secret. So what is Juno's? I'm not the first person to ask this question, and I'm sure I won't be for the multiple questions I imagine I'll try to answer as the years go on. But beastars can be especially frustrating when it comes to these sorts of questions because there's a lot of really interesting lore and world building that Itagaki introduces, but doesn't necessarily get expanded on. Like, it's not retcon necessarily, she just ends up going in a different direction as time and the story go on. What is a beastar? Is it an officially elected position? Is there more than one? Is it only available to high schoolers? Is there one elected every year? Is it a job, and if so, what are its responsibilities? Can one city have multiple beastars? Like, think about it. Can you concretely tell me what a beastar is, how one becomes one, and what their daily responsibilities might be? Because I think your answer is going to change depending on what chapter you're reading, despite it literally being the name of the manga. And I'm sure we'll at one point actually do a full video trying to explain that specific issue, but I'm more so saying this to demonstrate a point. Itagaki will raise a concept, it will be communicated in a way that suggests it will have a lot of narrative weight, and then it will never be brought up again. Or it will be brought up, but in a way that doesn't fully make sense. The extra special recruitment model in the drama club is an example of this concept. It's specifically set up to imply that both Legosi and Louis have these traumatic pasts they're going to have to come to terms with, which does get payoff later.
You might assume this theme would follow with the other important members of the drama club. Bill, Els, Tem, Riz, Pina, and Juno.
But this isn't explicitly communicated to us. To be fair, neither are Louis and Legoshi's unique problems. We as readers are meant to come to that conclusion. Itagaki does not need to rate Louis saying, "You see, I was gotta be here because I was sold as a meat baby and adopted," for us to understand that this is the case. I think it'd be helpful to take whatever data we do have and compile a list of no recruitability, just to give us a point to start with. 1. Having dead or absent parents. 2. Being raised by someone who is not your biological parent. 3. Being poor. 4. Suffering from some type of illness or delusion. 5. Being a hybrid. Or 6. Being a meat baby. Okay, I mean, yes, there is trauma involved with being an adoptee or living in poverty, but I do find the idea of some random guy being like, "Hey, you're not being raised by your biological father and mother." I feel like your dark and traumatic experience could really contribute to our artistic environment. To be just a little bit goofy. Okay, so let's see if we can peg Juno to any of these categories. She's a carnivore, so not a meat baby. There's no evidence to suggest she's poor or that she was adopted. She was bullied in middle school, which might suggest she had some type of issue that socially ostracized her. We'll put a pin in that and come back to it later. Let's look at the last point. being a hybrid.
Let's try the best and most reliable way to find information on the internet. Typing in your question and then adding Reddit on the end. Okay, so we can see here that we get a lot of nothing answers, but there does seem to be one recurring theory. The one somewhat consensus people have fallen on is that she's probably a hybrid between a wolf and a dog, maybe a border collie specifically.
Now, I can definitely see where this is coming from. Juno has some traits that in reality we would not expect to see in real-life gray wolves, specifically her floppy ears and curly fur. These are traits that tend to come on canines as they're being selectively bred. There's some real research coming out right now about this, involving selectively breeding foxes, which I recommend you check out if that sounds interesting to you. It's pretty cool stuff. I'm not going to say that there's no chance that this is the case, but I don't think it is. First, let's look at one of Itagaki's first wolf protagonists, a female wolf named Abby, who debuted in the first Beast Complex book.
Abby is a enigmatic white female wolf who has run with a camel journalist named Garome. The story itself is a bittersweet tragedy. Garome and Abby have an undeniable attraction towards each other, but Garome stirs more than just a hunger for intimacy with an Abby. To her great dismay, he also stirs her hunger. There's a very prevalent theme throughout Beastars, the idea that no matter how much our society tries to deny it, the predators will always know that they are meant to eat, and the prey will always know that they were meant to be eaten. Garome, in an unusually compassionate act, offers to let Abby use his body to completely fulfill all of her desires.
They make love while she eats the ring finger of his left hand. I brought up this story because I want to discuss Abby's appearance, but I think it's worth keeping the theme of the story in the back of your mind.
Abby is tall, lean, yet still muscular, with a soft feminine face. But importantly for us, she has curly fur and curled ears.
Granted, they're not exactly like Juno's, but this is an example of a female wolf being shown with explicitly non-wolf traits, to make her appear more cute and feminine.
In her character sheet, Itagaki also describes her as a classic beauty, meant to be a foal for Haru.
Her personality doesn't really deviate from this until chapter 31, so while you could try to retcon this theory, it's pretty obvious, at least to me, that Juno was conceptualized as a beautiful gray wolf. She comes early enough in the story that I don't think I can definitively say that Itagaki forgot about the recruitment system, but I don't think she had a completely concrete reason at that point. I think her characterization of Juno changed, and as such, I think the reason changed too. But before I get into all that, let me wrap up this hybrid theory section, because at the end of the day, it doesn't particularly matter if she does have any dog ancestry. Because while we do have multiple mentions throughout the series that interspecies marriage is very much stigmatized, you guys know that dogs and wolves are the same species, right?
Like, yes, there are different breeds of dogs, but they're all under the same species, Canis lupus. Dogs and wolves share over 99% of their DNA with each other, and they can breed together and have viable offspring capable of reproduction, as is normal when two members of the same species breed. For all intents and purposes, dogs are just wolves that have been selectively bred over thousands of years to help us do things like herd animals, protect livestock, choke on their own saliva.
And well, yes, there is some tension between dogs and wolves in this universe. Dogs exist in more recent history in this universe and are meant to be a more socially acceptable version of wolves. They're selectively bred to dampen some of those more unsavory instincts. So there's the attitude on wolves that like, oh, these dogs aren't as hardcore, they're soft. It's actually not that bad.
Dogs and wolves hang out socially all the time in this universe. In fact, all kinds of canines seem to all kind of fall under a similar social group. So even if Juno was a wolf dog, which again, I don't think she is, she would not be considered a hybrid and would most likely not suffer any real social consequences.
But his line of thinking does make me wonder, where exactly is the line?
Because while interspecies one-night stands seems to be a pretty acceptable norm, going steady with one doesn't. There does seem to be like a pretty strong preference towards being with someone as close to your subspecies as possible, like how Mizuchi emphasizes how important it is to be a harlequin rabbit couple. Haru's father mentions she should marry a dwarf rabbit. Louis is engaged to a red deer specifically, and Juno talks about being the perfect gray wolf couple.
So we go all the way back to the first chapter. We see something interesting. Tim was in love with Els, and it's fine if you forgot, but Tim is an alpaca and Els is an Angora sheep.
Alpacas are Camelidae, related closely to camels and llamas, and sheep are Bovidae, related closely to goats and cows. They are completely separate species, and as such would be considered an interspecies couple if they had actually gone together.
Tim's love for Els is treated as a very sensitive, important secret in this chapter, which yes, is because this is Tim's first love, but maybe there is another layer to this. I think now would be a good time to talk about Juno's love affairs. So it was a hybrid possibility, but didn't really find anything there. So what else is there? The best lead I think we have to work with right now is her being pretty consistently bullied for being a carnivore. Maybe. It does seem to be more than that. I'm going to go a little more into that when we get to the legosi section. So if you look at it from that angle, then we could try to extrapolate some things. If all carnivores experience some level of bullying, then Juno is not unique in that aspect and would not be scouted. But if she's experiencing bullying for something else, like some sort of social deviance, she would be that criteria. I want to look into love affair specifically because her most important character and story moments are generally related to whoever she's fancying at any given moment. Insert interesting feminist media theory that I will have to save for another video in the interest of time. I will go on the record and say that I think this aspect of the story is written well. This sort of like boy crazy character can definitely come across as productive, but I really like what Haru does with her in Beastars. Doesn't change the fact that romantic interests are going to give us the most insight on who she is as a character. I'm going to start with a very tangentially related love interest because I think it gives a good setup for my main thesis. And Legosi and Louis are going to take so much time to cover that we might as well just get this one out of the way now. Okay, maybe Haru isn't exactly a love affair, but there is an important chapter involving her and Haru that ends up being very important for Juno's character and sort of marks a large shift in her psyche. And it does have some romantic attention, so I feel validated including it. So chapter 79, Secret Encounter with Lingerie.
Juno has just been nominated to take over the leading role of Adler. This is a pretty big deal, as not only is she a first year, but she would be the first woman to play Adler. At this point in the story, there is a lot of tension between the herbivores and carnivores, and there is a very real movement to segregate them at school. The members of the drama club are very against this, and are consistently trying to push back against the school's wishes. In the absence of Louis, who's busy being a gangster at this point in the story, Juno is being considered to be Cherryton's beastar. Her ability to bring people together, both carnivores and herbivores, is deeply appreciated by her peers, and they generally believe she has the ability to bring about a harmonious relationship between the two groups. It seems that everyone believes this, except for Juno. But incidents involving carnivores and herbivores keep happening. Everyone is trying so hard to prevent the school from separating carnivores and herbivores into different classes, but why? What's wrong with separate but equal? There's no way I can say that in front of the others. It's because we're in the same classes that we see things we don't want to see and learn things we don't want to know. Why doesn't anyone else get that? We need space. Carnivores and herbivores have to keep their distance from each other. All we need to do is stay friendly with each other. We can maintain our distance as long as we keep smiling at each other. Why is that carnivores find it so hard to stay calm around herbivores? It's such an easy thing to do.
Oh, dang. So this is really interesting. This part of her story is where I think we fully see her shift from becoming a fool of Haru to becoming a fool of Legosi.
Legosi loves herbivores. It's the force that drives the entire story. He loves Haru, he loves Louis, he loved Tem. He's not just romantically attracted to them, he generally wants to change the world and make it a place where they can live safely. He understands his hunger, and he kind of hates himself for it, but his desire to live among herbivores is so strong that he's willing to try to completely change himself and the world around him to make it happen.
Juno in a lot of ways is kind of the same and kind of the opposite. Juno also loves herbivores. I know that the whole separate but equal thing probably raised an alarm if you're an American to know our history, but in this case, people are eating each other, so we're not going to analyze it from that direction. And Itagaki's Japanese, so probably not thinking through the same cultural lens when she was writing this.
Juno loves herbivores, but she feels no desire to eat them. She wants to be around them, but she wants them to be safe more than that. She'd be willing to sacrifice living alongside herbivores if it meant their safety, if it meant that they wouldn't be eaten. She doesn't understand the impulses of carnivore society, and as such, she does not believe in their ability to change. She herself isn't particularly inclined to sanguine hunger, and as a result does not understand why other carnivores struggle so much to coexist peacefully with herbivores. As she's having these thoughts, she crosses paths with Haru, who is walking alongside Legosi. Juno is jealous, but she's also intrigued. Why is Legosi so fond of this little dwarf rabbit? This girl that is so different in every way from Juno. Not putting much thought into it, she quietly follows Haru through the school halls, up to the garden club door. Haru opens it, surprised, mistaking her footsteps for Legoshi's. Legoshi's a good 50 kilos heavier than Juno, so she's a little offended. Haru remembers Juno being a friend of Legosi, and reintroduces herself. She seems to be willing to let go of Juno's repeated weird behavior towards her. Juno, feeling uncomfortable, tries to come up with an excuse to leave, but Haru has other plans. Canines can't refuse requests to help, so much to her chagrin, she finds herself helping Haru in the garden. Haru goes into the club room to grab a box of tools, but does in a way that risks having a large heavy box fall on top of her and crush her. Juno, obviously distressed, asks why Haru did not grab a ladder or ask her for help. Haru says, "You were busy, and I don't mind risking my neck to buy myself some time." Juno, taken aback by this, stops and says, "So, this is how you did it, huh? Legoshi's attracted to you because you're small, and he instinctively felt the need to protect and take care of you." Juno, are you saying you're attracted to me? Haru is teasing, of course, and asks her to stop talking about Legosi. Decides to hang out with another girl. She offers to share a red bean bun, and Juno obliges. As they sit together, her thoughts begin to drift. How many mixed emotions are swirling inside me now? I don't want to know how charming herbivores can be. I want us to be in separate classes. I want carnivores and herbivores to be separated, and now I finally understand why. You're cute. It's because carnivores can never win against herbivores. I don't deserve to be the school's beastar. There's no way it can reach an equal footing with the herbivores, the way Louis has with carnivores.
Damn, there's just so much here. This is one of those times that I wish I could read the original Japanese version, because I'm really relying on the official translation to get across all these emotional nuances. The sort of romantic framing of Juno and Haru in this scene is very much intentional. Again, Juno's transitioning here from a haru foil to a legosi foil.
While she's not literally romantically attracted to Haru, just like Louis is not literally attracted to legosi, Itaki is using a romantic framing to push an emotional narrative. In this case, it's being used to display what looks like a gay awakening. And while Juno is not having a literal gay awakening, she is having an herbivore awakening.
Juno in this moment is realizing that she wants a separation from herbivores not because she is worried about their safety, but because she's worried about confronting an aspect of herself that she doesn't want to face. She's not some carnivore elitist who thinks she's better than herbivores.
She's romantically attracted to them, and kind of reveres them in a way that's kind of similar to legosi. Legosi and Juno both romantically attract to herbivores, and both deal with a lot of discomfort and shame in their roles as carnivores in society. Legosi deals with this by being very meek and apologetic about his carnivore traits, in an almost self-flagellating sort of way, while Juno takes the opposite approach, and tries to overcompensate her wolf traits, trying to come across as some sort of aspiring elite, full of carnivore pride.
It's just a mask though. She doesn't want to confront it, but she's a social deviant like legosi, and herbosexual. She's basically in the closet, and one of the ways she tries to hide this part of herself is by trying to be the perfect werewolf couple. This might feel like we're taking a step back, but before we get into Juno's actual herbosexual love affair, I think it's worth it to reanalyze the text with this idea in mind. If Juno is a deeply closeted herbosexual, then how should we interpret her pursuit of legosi? Well, I think we can split Juno into two characters.
There's Juno pre and post chapter 31. Juno's personality in the 10 chapters between her debut in chapter 21 and her shift in chapter 31 is pretty clearly set up to be a foil of Haru. She's portrayed as being smitten with legosi pretty much instantly, clearly setting up the three of them to be in some sort of love triangle, which, as we now know, isn't really the direction that Itagaki went with. There's a pretty clear love triangle between Louis, legosi, and Haru in these earlier chapters, but Juno goes on to fill a very different role in the story fairly early on.
But I do think it's worth it to re-examine her character before this shift. So, chapter 21, resonating with the outside world.
Legosi forgets his backpack and goes back to retrieve it, accidentally stumbling across an upsetting scene. You see, there's been a rise in predation lately, and the leader of a gang that killed an antelope recently happened to be a gray wolf. Two students are bullying a girl wolf over this, but we can't see her fully yet. And side note, the people doing the bullying here are also carnivores, which I find to be a bit odd. Anyway, legosi, wondering if he should get involved or not, decides to be a gentleman and interfere. He walks up to the two bullies and lies about being the girl wolf's big brother. They don't buy this, as they look nothing alike, but they decide they don't want to mess with the 6'1" massive muscle and leave her alone. We learn this girl wolf is, in fact, Juno. She's extremely shaken up by this encounter. She's been bullied throughout middle school for being a carnivore, but now seems to just be getting worse. Legosi validates her feelings in this moment, and he says,
I think it's good that you're mad about it. I got tired of hating myself for letting the bullying get to me, so I pretended I don't care. You're still able to get upset about it. That means you're tough.
There's this recurring element of carnivores being mistreated and mistrusted by other people, and it's a complicated feeling for them to navigate. On one hand, if they haven't actually done anything wrong, then it feels really awful to be looked at and treated like a monster. But on the other hand, they do want to eat meat, and carnivores do kill and eat herbivores relatively frequently, so it's not like the herbivore's distrust is exactly unfounded. Juno is really affected by this treatment, this idea that by being carnivore, she is automatically someone who should be distrusted and stereotyped against. She and legosi go their separate ways on good terms. Later, she drops by the drama club and asks Dom and Kibi about legosi. What's he like? Kibi is indignant that legosi would have a cute girl interested in him, but Dom, being gay and having no horse in this race, indulges Juno and tells her that legosi is a nice, normal high school guy who's been coming to himself more lately. Little do any of them know, but his recent emotional expansion is due to fascination with a certain dwarf rabbit.
We meet her one more time before chapter 31. In chapter 27, look, we're perfect together.
Legosi has just unknowingly walked in on Louis post-coitus with Haru. He's having some uncomfortable feelings around his potential romantic urges and possible jealousy around his new friendship, and Louis isn't too far off. He had just told Haru that he's always been honest about her, that the fact that he's not going to be in her species marriage, and that he doesn't think she's going to be one either.
As soon as he gets even a suspicion that Haru and legosi might be in some sort of romantic relationship, he immediately gets prickly over it.
He asks if legosi is in love with anyone, which legosi denies, and then suggests that legosi only hangs out with herbivores. Which is not true. He spends most of his time socializing with his canine friends when he's not in the drama club, and that he should hang more with his own species instead. Specifically, he not so subtly encourages him to spend time with the new, beautiful gray wolf that's joined the drama club, Juno. We cut to legosi in the drama club, quietly ruminating on his complicated feelings around Haru. Next to him, another pair of wolf hands appear, Juno's. Legosi and Juno are both early to the club and, as such, find themselves alone together for the second time. Legosi asks how Juno's getting along with everyone, and she confesses it's been a rough start. The other girls have been standoffish, either because she's a carnivore or some other reason she's not sure of. She hasn't been given a chance to audition and has instead been assigned the role of Tyrannosaurus Rex, a carnivore, something they say will be easy for her.
Again, I'm not sure where the carnivore aggression is coming from. Maybe some sort of internalized carnophobia, maybe they were bullied and now they're taking out on someone younger because they can. But most likely it's a mix of anti-carnivore sentiments and jealousy against a new and beautiful, talented girl to get more people's attention. And hey, I get it.
Juno seems to be taking this unwarranted abuse pretty well and declares she's going to execute her part of the dance flawlessly. She asks Legosi to help coach her, and he obliges. While he doesn't say he's attracted to her, in his mind he does admit that gray wolves are beautiful animals. As he helps her with her routine, we cut back to Juno's thoughts.
And I want to pay a little extra attention to this because it's the last time we see her in the role of a haru foil before her shift.
Legosi, do you feel what I'm feeling? When two beasts of the same species are in sync, they melt into each other. I know we'll make the perfect gray wolf couple. Suddenly, she grabs Legosi's hands and turns to face him. I feel so weird. My heart is beating fast, but I feel safe touching you. I've never experienced anything like this before. Is it just me, or do you feel it too? Legosi, not picking up on the hints that Juno is throwing his way, immediately dismisses it as a documented biological phenomenon. Species feel relaxed when they come into physical contact with one of their own. He'll also let Juno hold his tail if she ever gets anxious, and assures her that she will not get in his way.
Legosi may have been lying about being her older brother in chapter 21, but he seems to have slowly fallen into that role regardless, much to Juno's confusion. Before we move on to chapter 31, let's take a moment to analyze Juno's actions in this chapter. 1, we see that she is continuing to receive abuse from her peers for something she cannot control, being a carnivore, and to some extent, being beautiful. 2, we see that while she still feels upset about this behavior, she has started to shift from her earlier hopelessness to becoming more proactive. If they want to push her to a role, she's going to perform that role better than anyone else. She is actually working to esteem her social status. And 3, she emphasizes that she and Legosi make a perfect gray wolf couple. You know that Juno is interested in Legosi, she hasn't exactly been coy about it, but we haven't really known why until now. We could easily assume it's an admiration for him saving her from a rough situation, and that's probably an element of it, but that's not what she says. The only thoughts we get inside her head at this point is concerning what a same species power couple they would make. She thinks he's cool, sure, but I get the vibe that she vibes with him because he's a large, attractive gray wolf. She doesn't really know anything about him at this point. It's not love, it's infatuation. We'll see how this evolves when she shifts away from being a haru foil in chapter 31. Chapter 31 is called Her Ambition is a Shocking Pink, and it's very famous for a very specific scene. You'll know when we get to it. But it's a very specific scene involving Louis. So I'd rather wait until his reaction to go super in depth on this, but I'll mention the relevant points.
She shows up late to the drama club, and everyone, surprisingly, is really excited to see her. She definitely has her eye on Legosi still, but she has been going out of her way to win over the people in the drama club. Louis is baffled by this and asks Sheila what's going on.
Hey Sheila, what's going on? At the last meeting, you told me the female members were shunning Juno because they were jealous of her.
Well, Juno's been making a real effort to win them over. She's been really considerate of everyone. She's always upbeat. While you guys have been busy squabbling, she's matured. She's got a totally different charisma from you.
Sheila is the leader of the dance team, so my immediate reaction was like, oh, good, they're keeping an eye on the bullying issue. Except that Juno got assigned a role she didn't audition for because she was a carnivore, which I imagine Sheila is a part of, so maybe she's not actually doing that much to help. Sheila. But more importantly, Juno was not kidding when she told Legosi that she was going to step up and turn this narrative around. She has gone out of her way to put on this air of confidence and charisma. It's like she is purposely choosing to ignore people's little jabs at her. It's gone the road of pretending that they're already friends. Kill them kindness, you know? And it seems to work on everyone, except Louis. But I'm not getting into him right now.
Anyway, she offers to stay behind and help clean up the club since she was late and ends up being alone with Louis.
The big scene happens, which again, I want to say for Louis' section, but she does say pretty definitively that she is fully planning on making Legosi her mate. And she does in a rhyme, at least in the English version.
I'll make the world a peaceful place where carnivores can shine, and I'll make Legosi mine.
Bars. But the scene where she declares that she's going to get him, it doesn't seem so much to coming from a place of, I really like him. And more from a point of, I have some very specific, ambitious goals, and him being in a great relationship with me is going to help me achieve that.
Louis does warn her that that specific goal of hers will not be easy to achieve. He doesn't elaborate on it, but he does imply, at least to the viewer, that he knows Legosi is interested in Haru romantically.
But Juno will realize this herself until later in chapter 32. Then when we turn the lights off.
She meets up with the other drama club members as they're wrapping up some preparations for the Meteor Festival. She thanks Legosi for his help earlier, and he says,
It was nothing. I didn't do anything.
With a disheartened smile, she thinks to herself, he looks at me the same way he looks at everyone else. Not ready to give up, she coyly tries to ask if he knows about the legend around the meteor festival. If a couple lights a candle together, they will stay together forever. Legoshi muses on this, his mind clearly wandering to someone else. Juno decides to try to ask Legoshi to go with her, but as soon as she begins her sentence, all the lights go out. Herbivores can't see in the dark, and Legoshi, being worried about Haru's safety, runs off to find her. He does and crouches down to offer her his handkerchief. The lights come on, and Juno sees this, struck by utter disbelief. She's now coming to the same realization that Louis has. Legoshi's heart has been captured by Haru.
We don't meet again with Juno until chapter 45, the black hole behind the eyelashes. In the chapters between this, Haru has been kidnapped and then subsequently rescued by Legoshi. Louis also becomes a member of the Shishigumi at this point. This is sort of a large shift in the narrative for our main characters, and we're going to see Juno basically step up and start to fill in the gap that Louis leaves behind. Anyway, in this chapter, we're in the immediate aftermath of said kidnapping.
Legoshi's in the infirmary, and Juno stops by to visit him. She knows that Legoshi saved Haru, and she's not exactly sure why. She approaches him and commends him, saying that she knew they'd be okay, because grey wolves are tough. When she approaches him, though, he moves away. She tries again, offering to let Legoshi hold her hands to calm himself, but he declines, saying that, as weird as it is, he already feels calm. Juno starts sparring a little bit, and asks point blank if Legoshi is seeing Haru. Legoshi doesn't confirm it, but he, in not so many words, admits that he does love her. Juno is appalled by this, and ends up leaving.
She happens to meet Haru outside the infirmary, and calls her short and ugly, in her own mind, which, not true, very much is a jealous reaction on her end. Anyway.
She ends up following Haru and asking her if she's with Legoshi, and Haru's like, what, you're being weird, like, it's not like that. And Juno, being the little freak she is, gives her the good old snifferoo and says, oh, I see. That you haven't had sex with him. Of course not. You think I was going to devour you? I don't need to. I'll win this battle of females, and I'll prove it to you at the Meteor Festival.
Which, one, I think it does confirm that the thing Legoshi sniffed on Louis back in chapter 27 was in fact sex. And two, Haru did not think that Juno was going to devour her. She thought she was coming on to her, so read into that how you will. This sort of kicks off a kind of one-sided rivalry between Juno and Haru that goes on for multiple chapters after this. I won't go super in depth with it because I think these chapters are more so about Legoshi and Haru coming to terms with their feelings for each other. But quick overview.
Juno ends up taking the place of Louis at the festival. She makes this very rousing speech and gets this very exotic outfit to kind of like show Legoshi, check me out. Pretty freaking cool. Legoshi's like, yeah, you are cool. I'm totally rooting for you. Not picking up what she's putting down. So she goes on the stage, she's performing, and she ends up calling Legoshi to come on stage with her and touts him as this hero who went and saved the life of an herbivore he had no relation to because it's in the nature of carnivores to want to help and protect herbivores. See, you don't need to be scared of us. We're big and scary so we can protect you! Of course, Legoshi knows this is bullshit. He rescued Haru because he loves her, and he is not keen on carnivores at this point in the story. She takes him down to the lighting ceremony and encourages him to light a candle with her, which he denies, pretty overtly stating that this is a couples activity, and he doesn't want to give people the wrong impression. She tries to push it, but he runs off to find Haru. She ends up staying there alone, holding a candle, surrounded by other lovers.
So yeah, she's very overtly trying to compete with Haru for his affection in these chapters. But Legoshi just is not interested in her like that. He likes her, he cares about her as his friend and club member, but he's been fairly obvious about the fact that he's interested in Haru, not her. At this point, she's not so many words been rejected. He even tells Haru right after this happens that she's just his junior club member, and it's not like that between them. So at this point in the story, there's no more love triangle. We know who Legoshi loves. We don't pick up on Juno's story until chapter 52. Two dangerous egoists.
Legoshi and Juno happen to be walking to the biology room at the same time, and while Legoshi is very friendly towards her, she is not having it, basically calling him out for leaving her at the lighting ceremony and not giving her closure, if he's not interested in her. She also accuses him of hating his own kind, and that she won't let him go until he outright rejects her. Legoshi is kind of taken aback, not really sure why Juno likes him specifically, which, yeah, makes sense. But he's really sweet about it, basically telling her, look, I think you're cool, and I think we have a lot in common. Let's just go sit down and talk about your feeling. Like, I'll work through that with you. They enter the biology room, and the wolves are electric. I mean, they're so excited. Apparently, Juno's little stunt really had a tangible impact on how the rest of the school looked at the wolves, and that they can now talk and be way more comfortable on their herbivores than they were before.
Legoshi and Juno don't end up having that discussion, but this chapter does kind of further cement this idea that with Louis gone, Juno does have a real shot being the next beastar. We don't encounter her again until chapter 67. Electricity passes through rows of fangs. It's pretty brief. Legoshi at this point is trying to find Tim's killer, and he has to see Juno's fangs help him determine the sex of the killer.
Juno shyly lets him, but once he gets the information he wants, he pays for a coffee and goes back to his business. She's still upset with him for not fully acknowledging her love confession, but at this point, it doesn't seem like he's going to.
And that's it. This is the last time she and Legosi interact while she still has a crush on him. I think that's become pretty clear to her at this point, that she's choosing to pine after somebody who just does not think about her nearly as much as she thinks about him. But something that I've not yet mentioned is that she's been spending time with someone else at this point. Someone who does give her some attention, who she can actually relate to on an emotional level. Somebody like... The companion video is a pretty funny one involving the boys from room 701, so hopefully they'll help satiate your beastars' appetites for the time being. That's available on my Ko-Fi at any tier, link in the description. Also, if you have any ideas or thoughts about this theory so far, please leave a comment so I can check that out. And if you want to just talk about theories or media in general, I do have a Tumblr blog. I love writing essays on media I'm into, clearly. So feel free to hop to my ask if you want to share your own theories or get my opinion on one. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are awesome. And remember,